The OnePlus 7 Pro can be one of the best bang-for-buck devices in Android today, finding itself among the flagship elite despite not having typical flagship prices. And even with its little quirks, the solid day-to-day experience is plenty for the multitudes of the OnePlus faithful. But does the never settle motto ring true when the phone is pitted against the biggest Apple competitor? This is Pocketnow and I'm Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? Let's find out the answer to that question in this comparison between the OnePlus 7 Pro and the iPhone XS Max. There's no getting around it, both of these phones are big. There's a lot of screen to go around to be sure, but both of these phones are dancing around the 6.5-inch display range. As such, the footprints are also really similar, with the phones pushing and, for some people, blasting past the comfort level needed for one-handed usage. The OnePlus 7 Pro makes handling a bit tougher by curving the screen, so ease of use gets knocked down a peg because of this, but it's pretty easy to forgive the phone for all of this when the screen is this good. A 90Hz refresh rate makes Oxygen OS just glide underneath the finger, and the higher resolution is a welcome new step for OnePlus in general. You need no better example of smartphone design evolution than these two phones right here. While the screen of the iPhone is still a good looker, it is already antiquated compared to many phones that came after it because they discovered ways of removing the notch. Like many users, I got used to this cutout pretty easily, but comparisons like this are what cause phone envy. Let's put aside for a second the fact that the front-facing camera isn't a cool motorized pop-up on the OnePlus 7 Pro. Instead, just look at the near bezel-less Quad HD AMOLED display. Here's to hoping that the next iPhone finds a way to give this kind of display experience. Going around the frames, the iPhone might have a silence toggle, but then again, there's the OnePlus Alert slider. There are no headphone jacks for either phone, but both companies do have their own wireless headphone solutions. External sound favors the OnePlus 7 Pro, whose dual speaker setup is above average. And the battery in the OnePlus 7 Pro is large, at 4,000 mAh units, which is almost 1,000 over that found in the iPhone XS Max. However, the longevity of the OnePlus 7 Pro gets taken down a little bit by the high refresh rate and the high resolution of the screen. Luckily though, the OnePlus 7 Pro can be charged up really easily using Warp chargers, which are conveniently included in the box. That's not the case for the iPhone XS Max, even though it does have wireless charging. Alright, that brings us to the cameras, which is a matter of options and feature sets. Honestly, the quality comparison came down to the OnePlus 7 Pro's 48-megapixel Sony IMX sensor that continues to impress in pretty much any phone that rocks it. It's highly detailed, provides great stabilization in video, and is accompanied by both a zoom and a wide-angle lens in this case. Along with the Pro mode for manual controls, the 7 Pro simply gives users more to work with. While updates are still rolling in to improve camera quality since its initial release, the only real bummers as of right now are that the wide-angle lens is a bit soft in the edges, and only the Sony sensor is used in video recording. The iPhone XS Max, on the other hand, brings dual 12-megapixel shooters for robust portrait shooting options and smart HDR capabilities. To be honest, photos and videos are consistently captured well on the iPhone, making it a great point-and-shoot solution for many general users. Smart HDR can be a bit aggressive though, especially in the shadows of photos and videos, but detail is high throughout. Apple has yet to embrace the wide-angle life, but the real omission here is a night mode that we're starting to see in a lot of Android phones these days. Selfies between these two phones are pretty comparable, and neither phone really pulls ahead in this particular department. You do have to decide if portrait lighting is cooler than a pop-up camera, and this pop-up camera hasn't gotten old yet. Performance isn't really something you'll envy in either direction, as iPhones are always optimized properly for both daily user interface operation and app usage. The A12 Bionic is backed by 4GB of RAM and no expandable storage, and unfortunately, the higher you get with the internal storage options, the further up the price goes. The OnePlus 7 Pro has Oxygen OS, itself a very optimized version of Android in particular. As with any Android flagship, the higher specifications ensure that the daily experience is top-notch, with the Snapdragon 855 supporting the 7 Pro alongside up to 12GB of RAM and storage options that can get up to 256GB without breaking the bank the way the iPhone does. Gaming does favor the OnePlus 7 Pro a bit more simply because it gives players more options. There's a gaming mode that blocks unwanted distractions, which can be done in iOS as well, but now there's a Fanatic mode that boosts performance. If you've ever wanted to do gaming content, there's now a built-in screen recorder here that can record the internal audio. iOS has had its own screen recorder for a while, but there's more control in Oxygen OS over the quality of the capture. And as far as everything else goes in the user interfaces, the story is summed up pretty simply. They're both clean. But the looks are only surface level. What matters most to Apple users is the ecosystem. For example, iMessage still remains one of the biggest reasons to stick to iOS, and a lot of you talk about it in the comments, especially when it comes to group messaging. AirDrop kind of doesn't have a true equivalent in Android yet, and as Apple makes bigger and bigger moves towards their services, interconnectivity between these devices, macOS, and now the new iPad OS devices will be appreciated by those who go all in on the Apple stuff. Those functions are not lost on the OnePlus fan, but they're a bit harder to come by due to the fragmented nature of Android. But the story of OnePlus's software is about how it takes Android and makes it simple and clean. Oxygen OS has actually had some features that are now getting into iOS 13, just announced at WWDC. For example, the dark mode. And of course, Android is more customizable than iOS, but Oxygen keeps those options simple yet significant, right down to a OnePlus Slate font. As is always the case with these Android versus iOS comparisons, your choice is going to come down to your needs. Oxygen OS cleanly delivers the possibilities of Android, while iOS is just one layer to an ecosystem that rewards users for willing to bite more and more of the apple. A quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, the Brave browser. Now, I've been using the Brave browser on my desktop for quite a while now, and I've been able to block so many different ads and trackers thanks to the Brave shields. But now it also rewards you with BAT or BAT tokens when you look at targeted ads. And by looking at some of those ads, you obtain cryptocurrency that you can use to pay it forward to your favorite creators and also websites across the internet that you want to support directly. To find out more information about the Brave browser, its shield, and the BAT tokens, you can look at the link that is found in the description down below. And so, there you have it. A look at two of the biggest phones, kind of literally and figuratively, in Android and iOS. You may be put off by the high price of the Apple device, especially at higher storage capacities, but if you have your eyes on the latest iOS smartphone, you might already be far into the Apple ecosystem to begin with. OnePlus is getting better and better each year, this year making a phone that provides a lot without too many sacrifices. And it certainly gets closer to the cleanliness experience that Apple users have enjoyed in their camp thus far. Alright, it's time to ask which one you would pick. Get into the comment sections down below and let us know which one of these large phones you might end up picking, and let us know why as well. Drop some likes on this video so we know you like what we're doing here at Pocketnow, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm gonna go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in our next video.